Duolingo made us an empty promise that we could learn a language on our phone by devoting only a few minutes of our time each day to completing simple exercises. By selling this dream, it became the trendiest way to learn a language, with over 45 million monthly active users who work diligently to maintain their learning streaks and gain XP. But most of these users will never achieve even simple competency in the languages they study. As an on and off Duolingo user of many years, I can confidently say that nothing I learned on Duolingo has stuck in my brain, and formal education in languages I've attempted to learn has done more than any app could ever accomplish. I don't wish to completely discredit Duolingo. When learning the foundations of a language, Duolingo can teach you the broad strokes. One study conducted by Dr. Jason Rachels did not find a significant difference in test scores when two groups of students, one learning Spanish with Duolingo and the other learning from traditional instruction, were evaluated with a 50-question exam. Duolingo can teach you vocabulary, basic grammar, and other foundations of a given language, but beyond that, it's unlikely you'll achieve fluency by using the app. From the experiences I've heard and read from users of social media and journalists, even the most committed of Duolingo users only know how to ask you where the bathroom is and how much your cat weighs or whatever random canned phrases that they quiz you on. Duolingo in the later stages of learning a language can't compete with professional instruction or immersion programs. For some languages, Duolingo simply doesn't have the modules to polish off your skills so you can attain fluency. And for even the most complete language learning courses on the app, you'll still walk away with many gaps in your knowledge. Though there are many exercises in the app, it simply isn't sufficient as a comprehensive instructional tool. Another reason why Duolingo doesn't really work in the sense that it can barely bring you to a conversational level of a given language is because it's a game, not a course, not even primarily an educational tool. While gamification can encourage users to pick up their phone and keep learning, Duolingo would rather get their users hooked, completing easy tasks, and then frustrating them into buying in-app purchases. When I used the app, I kept running out of hearts because I made mistakes because I'm a human being, and instead of prompting me to study harder in order to make fewer mistakes, the app made me wait for more hearts so I could continue learning. Of course, you also have the option of buying their subscription to learn as much as you'd like. I was so hopelessly addicted to Duolingo at one point that their methods of manipulation were effective enough for me to purchase their subscription. In this way, the app discourages actual learning for free users in favor of driving conversions and getting more users to sign up onto yet another monthly expense. Though making money is their current prerogative, it wasn't always intended to be that way. The professor who co-founded it was initially inspired to develop the app after realizing how expensive it was for people in poorer countries to learn English. Duolingo has taken the image of being a benevolent education company, making language learning accessible to the masses, and ran with it. Despite being a soul-sucking, multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company, they still appeal to the idea that they're doing charity work of sorts. Their About Us section on their website proclaims they want to make language education accessible to all for free, but their belief that true equality is when spending more can't buy you a better education is in contrast to how apps like Duolingo turn a profit. They need to sell you in-app purchases that make your educational experiences better for it to be worth spending money on. In worsening the experience of the app for free users, they use the same pressure tactics that apps like Candy Crush incorporate in their games to sell their in-app purchases, making it frustrating enough to wait to play more so that you'll cave and take out your wallet. But unlike Candy Crush, they promise to teach you a valuable skill despite the fact that it's unlikely you'll become fluent by using an app for 15 minutes a day. Now's a good time to remind you that my Patreon is significantly cheaper than Duolingo at only $1 a month in the lowest category and helps support my work here on YouTube. You can check it out by using the link in the description below. Anyways, Duolingo is not alone in its role as a game that proclaims to do more than just entertain and be somewhat mentally enriching. There is a whole genre of apps that promise to teach you all sorts of things including math and music, but none do I recall more vividly than Lumosity. Does anyone remember them? They ran an aggressive ad campaign over a decade ago promoting their brain training games. I actually used Lumosity when I was young and it was kind of fun, but it was basically web games. It couldn't improve your brain function any more than cool math games could improve your math skills. I wasn't the only one to discover this. So did the Federal Trade Commission. It cracked down on their advertising tactics, and Lumosity had to agree to a $2 million settlement with the FTC because they were claiming that their product could ward off dementia and broader cognitive decline with zero credible scientific evidence to back up their assertions. Edutainment apps like Duolingo or Simply Piano, and the list goes on, may not be making impossible claims, but they're still selling us the often unrealistic dream of learning complex skills with no proper supervised instruction, and their ad campaigns are just as in your face and annoying as Lumosity's. Despite the claims that the companies make, you're not going to be able to reach proficiency at piano with an app, nor will you be competent in speaking a language if you keep your Duolingo streak for long enough. But I caution against tossing these apps aside. In tandem with proper instruction, or when used to keep your skills fresh, they might very well have a purpose and engage the brain in a subject in an entertaining, gamified way. There's a time and a place for that. But whether or not we can assume that these apps have any use at all depends on the makers of the app continuing to put out a quality product. In Duolingo's case, the app's future looks bleak. Last I remembered, it underwent a controversial redesign that infuriated their most dedicated users who loved how the old curriculums were structured. I was applauding people complaining on Twitter back when that happened because I wholeheartedly agreed. The redesign sucks, and a bad layout would not be a deal breaker if the content of the app was still good. But there's issues there as well. Duolingo is starting to cut corners, laying off a cool 10% of its entire translation staff this year. They pointed to AI as one of the reasons why they no longer need human translators, which is concerning, as AI is notorious for not only making bland and garbage texts, but also mistakes. As language models advance, there will likely be fewer mistakes, if not barely any, in the text generated, considering the rate of progress in the field. But one thing that won't change for a very long time is that text from AI is soulless and boring. To give an example, when asked to create an amusing conversation designed to teach non-native English speakers food-related vocabulary, Google's state-of-the-art Gemini language model spat out a nonsensical dialogue where a woman at a farmer's market is unable to identify artichokes or cucumbers, mistakes strawberries for raspberries, yet despite evidently never encountering a fruit or vegetable in her entire goddamn life, asks the vendor if he sells basil. Considering the nonsensical nature of the sentences Google Gemini presented to me, it makes me raise an eyebrow at some of the more stupid sentences Duolingo incorporates in their exercises these days. When I saw a sentence like "do not kiss the spider" in a German lesson a few years ago, I thought it was someone in the translation department being funny while making informed decisions when crafting a sentence purposefully designed to teach me grammar, vocabulary, and sentence structure. Now, if I see a sentence to that effect in Duolingo, I envision an AI pooping out as many garbage sentences as possible with no rhyme or reason behind its words, just complicated statistical models churning out sewage. Duolingo, at the end of the day, is a for-profit company. Their job is to grow at all costs, reducing quality by slashing expenditures and trying to drive more subscriptions to their premium services. That is their mission, not actually teaching anyone a language. I do value educational apps that teach a variety of things, but remember that the best ones are free. Khan Academy is awesome, and when they hopefully get into the language learning game, Duolingo might have some serious competition, and I'm praying for that day to come because Duolingo looks like it's entering its enshittification arc just like every other app. Anyways, I'm Robert Tolpe, and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and maybe even check out my Patreon, and I hope you have a great week. Bye-bye!